president from 2021 to 2025. She is a tree care specialist and landscape design. Bev became interested in found roses and roses that are drought and disease tolerant 25 years ago while living in North Texas. She moved to Hyco in 2014 and began incorporating roses into the new and different climate. Let's give a big round of applause. Put it forward. This one's forward. Okay. Backwards is forward.
Y'all, well, thank you for welcoming me. Glenna contacted me and I said, oh gosh, okay. I said, the only thing I know to talk about is roses, but what a good time to talk about them, because we are going into a season that fall was a great time to plant roses, but even now, February coming up is another great time. I love Master Gardeners. Like I said, Steve and I met in 2019 and did our classes where we got to rotate through Hood, Johnson, and Somervell County. And Somervell County is very tiny, and most of us are here today. No. These are my good friends, and I appreciate them supporting me. My best friend, John White, is my husband and the digger of the family. I will tell him, hey, let's do, and I know all of y'all can go. And your husbands or your wives look at you and go, what do you want to do again? Okay. Are we having any new projects this year? No. Yes. I mean, you change your mind quickly, but, so I appreciate them being here, and I appreciate y'all being here. I tell everybody straight up, I'm not an expert. I said, that's what I love about Master Gardeners. None of us are really experts. We're always learning. And if I would say at any point, if you have questions, just say, what did you just say? And if I can't verify it, I'll get Shirley Smith to do it. She's my verifier most of the time too. But it's fun. I've loved y'all's group from the very beginning. And I sneak over here like that little person that's going through your garden. Take notes, I got some great pictures. So, and then y'all are just my second favorite in the world, besides Somervell County. And then I like Erath County, so I spend a lot of time over there too, and I've gotten to know, and we all have that common love for either vegetables, flowers, trees, grasses, something. We have a common, and I love that it's an endless source of information. Because if I don't know it, I'm calling her, or if I don't know it, I'm gonna call somebody else, and somebody will find me an answer, or an answer for somebody else. I grew up out in West Texas, which y'all know West Texas if you've been there. Beautiful shades of rust and brown. Great sunsets, but not a lot. So my early life, I could just remember my grandmother growing zinnias. And I thought they were beautiful, and she had some roses, I don't know what they were, but roses. And then when I would go visit my grandmother up in Hamlin, Texas, she had some old roses that would just grow and grow, and I was fascinated by that. They were cascading, red, beautiful, and I love that. But not until really late 30s, 40s is when I became interested in the garden and keeping the garden, mainly flower beds. And then I went on to, my brother had a beautiful place out in San Angelo called the Rustic Wheelbarrow, and he specializes in antique roses and perennials, Texas perennials, which is a term I'd never heard either. So probably 30 years ago, I started learning at that point. And so that's how I got into it and became most interested because of my brother. He's not a master gardener, but he should be. I tell him all the time, I don't know why he isn't, because he's so knowledgeable. But that's why I started that, and most of you probably identify with that's how you just eased your way into this. And either the influence of your grandparents, the influence of seeing their gardens, and I think that's why I think I'm sort of particular to the roses and the old roses, is their history, and they have such a long history. I like to say that I have a garden with roses opposed to having a rose garden. Because I just want to incorporate them into the whole thing. So that's where my focus is more on. Rose classification, that is complicated, as you well know. Back and forward.
Forward and back.
I told her, I said, IT, no knowledge.
Okay.
Where do you point that? Oh, well, good, the IT told me wrong.
Hey, I'll admit it.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate her humble attitude, because I don't know any difference. But, as you can see, rose classifications can go anywhere. Look at the gamut there. I mean, old roses, China roses, pioneer, I mean, there's lots of classifications. So today, when I'm talking more, I'm gonna be looking at China, Floribunda, shrub roses, some of the climbers and the rambling roses. Those are ones I focus the most on, and I have in my yard, and I tend to grow and propagate and try to do that more. I also, when I look at a rose in all those classifications, I'm looking for a rose that's gonna be disease resistant. I'm gonna look for something that's drought tolerant, because we don't have a lot of rain out here all the time consistently. I'd love to have all my roses to have no thorns. And, guess what? God just did not create them that way completely. Now, there are a few varieties that are thornless and beautiful, but there's also, mainly, all my favorite ones have thorns, and some of them more vicious than others. And, don't prune without long sleeves. That's gonna be one of my things to tell you at this, which I don't know about y'all, but you go out in the yard and you immediately start finding yourself, and you got your short sleeves on, and you're in trouble. So, yeah, you come in with lots of scratches. The older I get, the worse I look. I did get some of those fancy sleeves, but then I forget to put those on too. So. Anyway, so I'm not a good example of that. Whether I'm looking, when I'm looking at roses in the area, I'm looking at some that may need to climb. Maybe it's a mass planting, maybe it's a shrub or border. The most important thing is gonna be determined by its location. And I have a lot of trees on one part of my property, and I know I'm not gonna plant a rose underneath those. They're just not gonna survive as well. They don't like those conditions. I saw an interesting little, article. It says, did you know that roses, potentially some of the oldest roses, that they are fossil, they found fossils with rose ancestors dating back 35 million years. One of the oldest known roses still living is over 1,000 years old, and it grows in a cathedral wall in Germany. 1,000 years old. I got some old roses, but they're not 1,000. They had a little term about antique rose emporium, which is, I put some little things up here that I always look at and read over every year, just like it's a new book every time. But it said, they just put out a little thing last week that said, what are true antique roses? Because we can call almost anything antique roses, probably not. But it says, you've probably heard that term, but what does it really mean? So they break it down very simply and clear. It says a true definition of an antique rose is any rose class that's existed before 1867. It was the year that the first hybrid tea rose was introduced, and this date marks a major turning point in rose breeding in history. A lovely example of an antique rose is the Duchess de Brabant rose. I don't know if I say it right or not, but it was introduced in 1857. But these antique roses, they're mainly beloved because they have a timeless beauty, which think back to your grandparents' yard, but graceful form. Most of them are very fragrant. They are natural. They got a natural vigor, they have resilience, adaptability, and then they have a lot of deep historical and cultural significance. And so it just goes on to say that these roses have stood the test of time, thriving long before modern chemicals, sprays, and any intensive care. Now I shy away from certain rose type. I love Tyler, I love going over there, but those roses scare me. You know, when you see a rose that's been grafted or something, I will not go down that path just because I'm really educated and I don't know if I'd probably end up killing them. And so I love something I can't kill. You know, how many times do you give a perennial a chance in your yard? Twice? If it dies again, I never touch it again. I just walk away, like, I'm never buying that again. Cause I don't wanna work that hard, but I'm willing to work hard to get it the first or second time, but after that, it's like, yeah, that doesn't work. Many of these antique roses or inspired roses we have grown are chosen for their beauty and their ability to perform well in real gardens across the wide range of climates. And it's about honoring history while growing roses that gardeners can truly enjoy. And I thought they said it better than I could ever say what it meant. And though these are some of the classifications, you might be familiar with all these. Are there some rose gardeners in here? Some people that love them, yes? Good, we'll have to talk to the board. And then you can come up here and talk with us too. All right, go forward. All of those that you know about earth kind roses, as master gardeners, we've heard a lot about earth kind plants. And knowing, now these roses, I have, I don't know, maybe half that list in my yard. And I can just tell you right now, good roses. I'll tell you some of my favorites later, but earth kind just mean that they are drought resistant, they are disease resistant, and they can be grown most across Texas in our ecosystem and do really well. So I mean, they're all whimsical and they're all different. Like little fairy down here, I love a fairy. Sweetest little rose, but you talk about a deadly little, tiny little baby thorn. When you stick your arm in to get a dead cane, your arm's not coming back out without being sheared up. I mean, I said I love it, I have it by my back door, but I always tell the kids, oh, don't reach in there. No, but that one will bite. And it will. I'm trying to look up here. My very favorite is a beautiful cabbage looking beautiful. I don't know if you're Belinda's Dream. Who does not love a Belinda's Dream? Just like the lemony smell. It's just, that's a good one. The Carefree Beauty, I don't know if y'all remember, but right when I was first doing these back in the mid-90s, they would call it Katy Road Pink. Y'all remember that? And I don't know why they ever changed that name, but I still refer to mine as a Katy Road Pink, but it's called a Carefree Beauty. I just got the Dutcher last year. It's a pretty white. It's doing very well. Some of these are just done so well, so quickly they adapt and they start growing. And then I have some that, and we'll talk more about that when it comes to planting. Look at that, I did it. It's amazing, y'all. Planting, I'll just cover over that. I'll go to these notes a little bit. Oh, I wanted to tell you this one thing. I found a little saying that it was, and I don't know the author of it, but it said he was talking about old roses have a diversity of form, and that just makes them great in a garden. And so you will want to underplant, of course, with perennials and herbs for medicinal reasons. A rosemary and a rose go well together. I always put a garlic, society garlic near my roses because somebody told me that was a really good idea, and so I believe them, and so I've got a smelly, got those smelly little society garlic hanging around, and when you step on them, you know, what is that? And then you're right there by the rose. But it says a rose, of course, I think it can add color, form, fragrance to the whole garden. And then underneath here, this unknown said, for me, the rose is just, oh, no, I'm gonna say it wrong, but a diversity of plants in a garden scheme ensures continuity of beauty. over time, and it reduces the burden of one plant to be perfect all the time. You know, we want that one plant that's always gonna be perfect. Well, I can say, nearly 9 months out of the year, that rose bush is a pretty perfect rose bush. As a centerpiece in our gardens. They might get a little stressed in the summer in the drought or low water time, where we still lose their leaves a little. But as soon as that's fall, I mean, they come back out, they're blooming. I think we still have blooms right now, love that. I've seen ice on blooms in the middle of December, where we would have it up in North Texas. We live in a little town called Anna, and Old Blush would be out there just doing its thing, and then the ice would just come and form, and it's beautiful, even though I felt sorry for the rose. But to me, the rose is just a part of the family of a flower bed. Because I don't know about y'all, but do you not walk around right now and start talking to your plants? And then you see something pop up, and you're like, oh, well, look, you're back up. You know? And I know I'm an idiot. I do this, y'all. My husband can probably verify. He sees me out walking. Right now, we have a wildflower field, and I swear I'm searching for anything that might have came up from a seed. Okay, and I'm looking, and then I'll see something, and I get excited. So, yeah, that is my. This is my love, and I do it alone by myself all the time, talking to myself. And I know y'all are just like me, okay? I'm in good company. I was gonna go just step back about the found roses and mystery roses. And one of the definitions is these are ongoing search for these type of roses. I know you were just talking about being in Cleveland at a cemetery and finding and then propagating off, and we're gonna figure out exactly, it's a rambler rose of some type, but we'll figure out, but they have rescued these, especially the Antique Rose Emporium when it was formed. You know, they went through and they were rescuing these from highways, old homesteads, back roads, wherever they could find them, because these things were beautiful and they have not been tended to. They don't, nobody waters them, prunes them, sprays them, and they're thriving. So that's how they called early on. It was called rose rustling. Like they were going out rustling roses, and I've been accused of that. I think in Glen Rose, Shirley and I rustled a few. There was, I guess, when Glen Rose, and Shirley would probably have to tell me exactly the man's name, but he planted some roses in some different places. Like, as you go under this bridge, there was a rose over here, and it was just covered. But we went in and we tried to propagate that. I did not have success with that one. And we have a project that's just coming up, one of our, FFA.
It's Bill Cowan.
There's Mary Ann, she's right behind you. Tell, just for a sec, tell them a little bit about what you're doing with the road.
We have a little section of property, if anybody's familiar with Glen Rose, it's in front of the Wiley Funeral Home, but west of what is the Red Barn convenience store. And we have a little piece of property that we are fixing to clean up and plant roses in. And we're gonna dedicate it in memory of Mr. Cowan, who was a World War II veteran. And in 1978, he acquired 100 rose bushes and planted them in various places in town. I don't know if there's any others that are still alive, but I have one. Shirley saved it, and I have it at my house, and don't know, have no idea what kind it is, but he acquired 100 blaze rose bushes and planted them around. And like I said, there's only one that I know of that's still alive, and we are going to take this little piece of property and plant probably 20 to 30 roses in it, put up a 24/7 flagpole that will be lit. It's just a little project in memory of him.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, it's the passion of finding that history and then just trying to preserve it or recreate it. So planting, when I go to plant a rose bush, I'm looking at, the area, and it needs to be open, good circulation. Roses have to have good circulation. They need direct sun for at least 6 hours. Now, I've had some rose bushes that have grown under pecan trees, y'all, and they were gorgeous and wonderful. I couldn't explain it, but they worked out fine. I don't know if it's just because in the winter, when it all lost its leaves, they were able to thrive, and I don't know, but it did work out well. You want good air movement, so stacking in too much around it, you'll see it not thrive. It may grow and it may produce blooms, but it may never be to its fullest beauty. Soil prep, adding a good quality organic matter to the soil before you ever plant, and just getting that hole ready, getting those things ready around it, that it will enrich. I rarely fertilize rose bushes. I know you can. I don't tend to have to, because I put compost with them. Now, I have taken on some of my new plantings, and I'll use that bat guava, if I say that right, is it the bat poo? And I will put that in the hole. Sometimes when I have it, sometimes I don't. But I think that sort of adds a little. But I found that if I can add compost 2 to 3 times a year, like in February, I'll go around and start adding, and then sometime like maybe June, when everything's sort of resting after that flush, I might go in and do a little, and then fall, probably 6 weeks or 8 weeks before a good frost, I'll go in and redress, and I'll do that with mulch and the compost, and keep that going. You can always get an extended bloom fertilizer granules and put them around. I mean, it's not gonna hurt anything. I'm lazy, and I don't always remember to do it. I can remember those times to do it, but I don't really go around every 2 or 3 weeks and try to put anything on a rose bush. Mulching, watering, mulch is key, for where we live at. I think anywhere, but especially in our area, that you're gonna wanna mulch anywhere from 2 to 3 times a year. Always checking that base, around that drip system, that you have got that covered and secured. It will keep down the weeds, as we well know, less water stress, and then richer, more fertile soil as it breaks down and keeps adding to that good soil around the beds. Watering, you always want a good deep soaking watering. Now, they say every 7 to 10 days. I think those are talking about in Brenham, where they get rain on a regular basis. We tend to probably water, especially in the summer, maybe every 3 to 5 days, if about every 3 days on a good drip system.
I just wanted to ask you on the planting, I've been told to plant on a mound, but they like to be up high on a mound. Is that true? No, your experience?
No.
Okay, just do the whole.
I mean, I
level?
wouldn't ever plant anything deep, but no, I don't remember a mound as much as I would like a tree
Looks like
or
a mound
something.
there too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but that's sort of funny looking, but I think that's a lot. Like, I will mound my mulch. You know how on a tree, you're not gonna get that mulch up around with the rose bush? Throw that mulch all over it. I mean, it's not gonna hurt it, but I wouldn't do it but yeah, that's more like a volcano there. But, I would think that's mulch and stuff, but if you probably were in an area where you were worried about standing in too much water, probably grazing it would be good. But I personally, I live on a very dry climate, dry area.
So you want
There's no
deeper.
flooding going on around my
Yeah.
house. I don't know. Even if I accidentally leave that drip on too long, it's not flooding too often. So and drip irrigation is the best for a rose, just, I think for most plants anyway, but, just to keep the leaves dry. Cause a lot of people say, oh, I've got the yellow leaves and the spots are on it, and I'm like, yeah, those will fall off. I like to go through just with a water hose if I see that, and just knock them all off. Preferably early in the day, so that everything else will dry out that I just sprayed. But no, I think it's one that black spot and powdery mildew, we don't have the problems that maybe East Texas would have, or even North Texas as much, and different rose bushes don't tend to, some have it, some don't. And, but to me, if I see a lot of black spot or a powdery mildew, I would just think, hey, you just planted that in the wrong spot. Maybe, you know, I would reevaluate where you planted, and I'd reevaluate its environment and see if I need to move it. And I wish Valerie here, Valerie's another one of our master gardeners. I've never seen a woman that can move more plants, and she moves everything. And I'm lazy, like I said, I wanna put it one place and please live, okay? I do have a few right now that I think I wanna move. You can always use a mild, broad spectrum type of fungicide if needed. If needed. I mean, I wouldn't say don't use it, I'm just saying, I don't have to, I don't do anything like that. But I haven't had a huge problem, so that's fine. Pruning, a lot of people talk about pruning, old roses, especially the kind that I plant around, they don't require a really stringent pruning. If I'm shaping the rose bush to make it wanna look a certain way, or it's climbing a certain way, then you would. But, to me, first thing I look for in February, after February 15th, I don't do anything to any plants until after February 15th. Then I go in and get all the dead canes out. I will really cut it down as low as I can to get rid of any dead wood, cause I just think that adds disease, chances. But then on regular, I'm not gonna cut more than a third of that plant off. You know, I've seen a lot of those rose, man, they cut them down to, I mean, you can have a 6-foot rose bush, and the next time they cut it down to that big, and I'm like, and they come back. So if you did it and had to do it, it's not gonna be a big deal, but we had last year a rose bush that was growing up on a arbor side, and the wind came in, I mean, y'all, that whole thing, we didn't have it anchored to the wall, and that whole thing came down. And we cut a lot off, because we couldn't even get the thing back up, then anchored it, then tied it all back up. You can't even tell. I mean, that thing just said, okay, thanks for the haircut, and went on its merry way, so. They want you to avoid anything midsummer or late fall pruning. Again, you prune on that wood, it's gonna start shooting growth. And if you did that right before a frost, you're gonna endanger those plants. If you're gonna do it, like I said, I'll do it after February, except on those rambling roses. Because that's where they're basing their, right now they're forming those blooms, that they're gonna have that big flush, and then you're gonna back off and let that happen, and then you'll prune, like, after it goes to that big flush. Then you'll go in and you can shape it like you want, train it like you want. Lightly trimming throughout the whole year, the tips or deadheading. I found that, you know, some of them have so many blooms on them that you don't want to, I mean, you'd spend all day trying to get the right, you know, it's just, I can remember people say, oh, we'll go down to the 5th leaf, you know, you go down. Y'all, you could spend a whole day on some of these doing that. So now sometimes I'm not as careful as I once was. Roses that bloom, like I said, they get that big flush, and you're gonna do it. But then probably in September, I go through, I'm gonna put that compost and stuff in, and then I'll give it a good shaping, cause you know, summer it's a little leggy, and you just shape it in. That's a good time. We did the feeding. Feeding, again, like I told you, homemade compost. I know a lot of people do some homemade juices. You know, they love to make stuff. Teas, yeah. All of those are great. If you've heard of a good recipe, try it. One of the ladies I listened to out of Tarrant County had talked about, they take a lot of Epsom salt, put around? Well, that scares me to death, okay? I have not done that yet, and I know, but they say it makes a world of difference, but I have not done that. So I can't attest to it. As you go into the next area is training tips for like different roses, and I'll just tell y'all, these are roses that are, all these pictures so far that were gonna come up, these are roses we've had at our house. And this was, up here is an old blush, it was on an arbor, it was stunning, and if you go ever to the Antique Rose Emporium, you could really see how they braid. And that's what I had done on that, is a braiding, and then letting it just fall over and just go. We have one over at, Somervell County in our, Fluxy Heritage Gardens that we put 2 old blush on our arbor, and that thing is,
It's a
beautiful.
blush, is that what you call it?
It's called old blush.
Old blush.
And old blush will come as a shrub or a climber, so you'd have to designate. A climber, you can see 20, 30 feet,
Wow.
it will trail. The shrub, they'll say 6 feet, maybe? I swear, I have some on the west side of my house right now, which you'll see a picture of later. I bet they're 8 feet tall. I mean, they just go up the chimney, it's got west sun, it's hotter than anything, and that thing just waves and has the best time. I said, I mean, it's almost like its own monster out there. There's 2 of them together, and they have just, they're outstanding. So, climbing roses, they, you can get many different, out by the windmill, we have a Madam Alfred Carey, it's a white rose. They have one down at the White House in Austin, and, Capitol, and it's out, yeah, then in the springtime, when that, rose is all in full, it just drops, it looks like snow all over the ground. It's really pretty. And then this rose that's in front of that is a climber, everybody may be familiar, Peggy Martin. Great history on Peggy Martin. And out of Louisiana, when that flooded, it was under 20 feet of water, that thing still lived after all said and done, it's still alive.
And you don't fertilize that top one, that plant, it's just got the right sun and.
If you give it all the right conditions, they just, I mean, think about,
That's
most of these were in
amazing.
cemeteries and homesteads that were, nobody was living there doing anything to them, and they thrived. I mean, nature knows how to take care of itself, if you just give it in the right conditions. And that plant right there, that, Peggy Martin, that was I planted in spring, and that's in fall.
Wow.
It had a second flush. A lot of times Peggy Martins are only gonna do spring bloom. But it had a second flush.
I have a question, so you have the thing there that says pegging roses, are you saying pegging?
Pegging,
Peg-
like
Pegging, okay.
there are certain roses that are shrub roses, but they have long trains that come off of them, and so you take and you can make them look like a water fountain. You just take them down and then you peg them. You can have them in the middle of your yard, and then the blooms will grow on that arm. Like, it likes that arm thing, and so you just peg them with I just take those little, stake looking things,
Yeah.
and that's how you can root also.
Yeah.
You take it and you put it in the ground and it'll root, and you can top that off and grow another rose bud, so. Yeah, those work good. That one right here on this corner is one of the roses that Carefree Beauty or the Katy Road Pink it used to be. But it's a shrub, 3 or 4 feet tall. But roses, they can, grow, like I said, if you're gonna put a rose in a container, just good drainage is always necessary. You want something small, maybe a 2 foot or a 3 foot. How big your container is. I don't grow roses in containers. I think I have one little miniature one that someone gave me as a present. It is in the container, it's done fine. But it looks exactly the same as the day I put it in. I don't think it's really lovely. hedges, if you ever get a trip down to Antique Rose Emporium, I would just tell you to please go. Many of you may have gone already, but it's the best display of seeing these roses in so many different settings, and how they climb, and how they train them to climb, but even how they use them as hedges, making either formal or informal type hedges. Like I said, the pegging roses, small, medium shrub. There's a great little rose called the Highway 290. It was found on Highway 290. And y'all, it's maybe 2 feet, little bitty, sweet little thing, and it can get a little bit bigger. But we, in our demonstration garden, we were talking about rose rosette, which everybody's talking about, especially when you're planting these. And we've been fortunate enough, these roses haven't tended to succumb to it as much, but we had our first fall, or spring last year. I had this one little kidney-shaped area that I planted all these Highway 290s on. I think it was Leela texting us, I think it is, and we went and looked at it. Yes, it was. Yes, we dug up every one and had to track it. And it's a sad moment when you have to do that. And I know more people have had experience with losing roses. I know Steve was talking about his house. It started out with numerous rose bushes, and he's down to 4. And it's pretty devastating. But I can just say, at this point, in our area, we're still good. And but there's so many ways to decorate this with the small and the medium, where you're just, putting it up a little closer, layering. I don't have enough pictures. I could have showed you 5,000, and I tried to veer it down, but I love to put a smaller, maybe a 2 or 3 foot rose, and then the ones that's a little bit bigger, and then I'll take Joe White helped me with we cut cedar and made a teepee, and then I put a rose, it's called the ballerina. So there's 3 types of pink, but they're all different, and the rose structure is all different. It's one of my favorite places to go out and look, and then I'll have some salvia that'll come up around it, that blue. So pretty. It makes a pretty picture too. So, she told me I could just talk all day, but I'll try to. She said, "Do you think you could?" I said, "Oh yeah." Propagation, I've seen, we have some good propagation experts, as sure as y'all do too. You're gonna take a cutting in February, after February 15th. As you see that new growth come up, you're gonna, cut a good 8. I always think of 4 buds a top, and 4 buds, or 4 leaf things. I had a friend of mine who's a landscape architect up in Anna, Harry Krieger, that would, he taught me a method that I'd never been taught before, and he would show me how to cut them, and then he took a pencil, and he would stick it in the ground where I wanted them, and then we did not put hormone or anything on them, stick them in the ground, pat them, and I put a cover over the top of them. We watered them lightly, and y'all had the best results out of that. And better than, cause I forget, like if I take it in the greenhouse or I take it in the house, I'll forget the water. And you got your little cover over on stuff, and I'm not very good at it. I'll just be honest, but Carrie's method was by far one of the best. But these roses are very easy to propagate if you have the patience and the time, and you will keep them moist and keep them growing. And in no time you can. Every time I prune in February, I want to propagate all of them. I hate to throw one. I'm like, I'm throwing a good branch away, but I've not had a ton of success, but I know a lot of people that have. Okay, so these are gonna be just a few of my favorite things. We're getting close to the end here, but isn't that pretty? Y'all, I just took this with iPhone most of the time, okay? I love iPhones, but good camera. But this is called a Valentine, and Valentine is a floribunda, which means it's gonna flora, but like a smell. It is earth pine, but it's called Valentine. It grows about 3 or 4 feet. Y'all, it's a happy, happy rose bush, good through zones 5 through 9. It's a repeat bloomer, which that's one of the things I really look for. I love a repeat bloomer. I mean, I think the big flushing ones are great, like a Lady Banks and some of those. But you know, one big bang, 2 weeks, and then nothing. So I love a repeat. And even if you get a good spring flush and it'll rest a little through the summer, but it'll still be blooming some. And then you get a good flush in the fall. So that's a good one. It's a small, you know, like I said, it's small. You keep it trimmed out. This one is that carefree beauty. Katie Road pink. I'm sure they get on you when you're using that term. But again, it's about 3 to 5 feet, zone 4 through 9 also, repeat. It is also an earth kind. It's a good one. This is my, this next one is one of my favorites to keep at the back door. It's called a Marie Pave. Again, it's a sort of a poly rose, but it's 3 to 4 feet tall. Zones 5 through 9, repeat blooming. The bloom is white, sort of this pink to a white. And then it will, the smell, you will walk out in a spring warm day, and that is the best one to have at a door. A lot of people do put them in containers, the Valentine and this Marie Pave. A lot of people will put them in big containers because they're great to have in living, if you have outdoor living space, they're great to have around because of their fragrance. This one is called the Heritage. Again, super fragrant, but it grows about 5 to 7 feet. Mine has gotten a little leggy, so in February, I'm gonna take and reshape it down a little bit and just see if it can get it more fuller. Again, it'll get those little rose hips on it really nice. Not all of them makes a rose hip, but this one does. This is in the back corner is one called Martha Gonzalez. It'll get about 3 feet. Again, zone 7-9, repeat bloomer, medium red. You can see the difference. This is a Valentine right here. So you can see they're both red, but look at their different bloom, and even the leaf structure on these are larger, where Martha Gonzalez has a tinier little structure of the leaf. There's another one that I thought was in here, but I don't think I put it in here, but it's called a little buckaroo. You get it if you like red, and you like a shrub. Those are some good choices. This is the Belinda's Dream. And, y'all, those are gorgeous again, they smell, but that rose is just as pretty. When it starts going down, I'll just go over and I'll just tear all those blooms off. I mean, I'll just like smell them and walk around. I love them. If you like to make potpourri, roses are good. Again, it's one that's gonna probably get anywhere from 3 to 6 feet, just how you prune it and where, if it's like its location. This is on a center, like a corner, and full south sun all the time. And it's done really good. I almost tried to kill it one time. And that's another one that's on the other side. But all this in front, as I was telling you, that's the old blood shrub. Look at the bloom, y'all. It's like crazy.
What side of the house is that on?
West,
West
up against the rock wall,
So
and
it gets a lot of
chimney. Heat.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of trees around the yard part now, but it doesn't even care. It just laughs at me.
Do you have any problems with the deer
No,
eating them?
no,
Okay.
and I don't know why, they should be. My mom lives in a
I
pine
know.
plantation and she can't keep anything.
That's where I am.
Yeah, it's jumping over all the time, eating all of her blooms, and she gets so mad about it, but we live on 25 acres and the deer are out, but they're not coming up. I think they know I would come out. I would have somebody threaten me. This one is, this is a shrub, but it's called a Cecil, I call it Cecil Bruno. I think a lot of people call it Cecile Bruner. But, I don't know, I heard it as a Cecil Bruner, and that's what I've always called it. You tell me your name is Karen, and I hear Kevin, you're gonna be Kevin the rest of your life, okay? There's a girl at pickleball, her name is Karen, but they said Kevin. And so every time I look at her, I go, hey Kevin. I can't get it straight, but y'all, it has the sweetest little pink, and I'll show you some close-ups of it, but it is, this one,
What's it called?
it's called Cecile Bruner, or Cecil Bruner. Whatever you wanna call it. It will start out pink and then it gets a really white look as it gets older. I mean, as it matures, the bloom matures. Again, a real pretty foliage, real green, pretty.
Shrub?
This is a shrub. Now, when I lived in Anna, we had a playhouse for the girls and had an arbor. You know, the main branch was probably that big around, it was huge, and it grew like 20 feet. It was a massive rose bush. That is a close-up of the little, when it's baby, you know, when it's just blooming, I mean, starting to open. See how pink it is? I skipped actually, but this is an old blush bloom. A lot of these are not kind of roses that you put in a formal floral display, but they still make it beautiful in your display with honeysuckle. If you got honeysuckle available, it's very pretty. That's again, see how it starts in that little pink, and it just goes out, and as it matures, it turns that white. And very fragrant also. It is, like I said, the climbers can be anywhere from 20 to 30, I mean, it just likes to grow in the climbing. But you'd always designate whatever area if you wanted to do that much. And the shrub is supposed to be 3 to 4 feet. Well, you can see that they're like 6 feet tall. And they face east. They get the east. Again, that's another Valentine right after the rain. And with the Valentine's right now, it's good. Go ahead and get your orders in. Empty rose for it. That is a Belinda's Dream. Look at all that multi-petal cabbage like, it's really pretty. And it does cut well to put in a floral. It holds together really pretty. I think that's it. That was my last one. So, I just ending that with just the fact that, if you've got an area in your landscaping that you think that you can put a rose in, hopefully you will do it. If it fits around your living area in a container, or if you found just somewhere you can niche it in there and it's gonna get some good sun, it's gonna get some good air movement, it is the best investment. It is an all-around beauty, and I've got some books up here. This is one of the books I love to look at and dream about, and it tells a lot more history. It's called The Empress of the Gardens. I got this one at the Rose Emporium. You can order online, I'm sure. And then the Rose Emporium always gives out this one is so worn out, y'all. I'm just sort of laughing. I think I poured water on it. Who knows, I probably slept with it. But it'll go through, again, a really good guide to antique roses, and good pictures, letting you see. It will tell you everything.
Is this the one in Brenham?
Yes.
Has that, I understand that that's been sold,
It has new ownership, but they have the same,
they're gonna still continue.
yes, they have the same passion and love and research that they're doing, and they work with A&M a lot. Especially on diseases and stuff, they're coming up with new. One of the things, and I don't know what I did with it, but it was, talking about pioneer roses. I don't know what I did with the note, I may have left it at home, but there's a new brand and they're called Pioneer Roses. I don't know if I can find it really quick, and that is where they're taking and breeding these old roses with newer version, and they're coming out with a very hardy, good rose. that's gonna be drought disease resistant.
Here is it.
Yeah, is that,
What did you say about the, Valentine? I know it was a repeat bloomer, but how big did that get? That's a shrub.
it's
correct?
about 3 feet,
3 feet
yeah.
shrub.
Yeah. And it can get a little leggy, a lot of those can get leggy if you don't keep them.
And you keep them, do you keep them pruned like all year long? I mean, if one's growing out, then you're just gonna trim it, or do you just trim it, 2 times a year?
Really just 2 times.
Okay.
I mean, if I see something leggy and it's gonna start scratching on a screen,
Mhm, mhm.
we'll go over and cut it, but there's so few things that you have to do with them that, I mean, even when you're just cutting them to take cuttings, then you can, you're pruning at the same
True.
time.
That's true.
And I do like to cut a lot in the spring.
Yeah, for your home.
Questions? Thank y'all for letting me come,
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.